This is Canada Reads American Style, featuring two friends who love Canada Reads and Canadian literature. Welcome our host Rebecca from Michigan and Tara from Ontario. Hi everyone, it is Rebecca and Tara, and it is day 3 of Canada Reads, and I think they kind of took the gloves off a little bit today. What do you think, Tara?
Yeah, I think so, but I found it to be a little more chaotic than yesterday's. Like the gloves came off a little bit yesterday too, but it was
Mhm.
still very like boom, 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 boom and organized. Today there was a little bit of chaos going on. People wanting to talk and not getting a chance, or like when they got their chance kind of changing the subject and stuff so they got their words in. So yeah, it was a little all over the place.
That's a good point. I did feel, I paid attention, especially because this has come up in comments I've seen about Dallas not getting enough airtime by not necessarily defending his book, but even commenting on the other books. And
Mhm.
I honestly don't remember today that he gave any opinions. I mean, that he answered any of the 4 questions specifically. I could be wrong. But of the 4 questions that they asked today, I don't remember him. Now, I'm not saying he didn't have an opinion or say anything. I think he said it within the context of other people's comments, but I was trying to write down when Allie would say, "So and so, what do you think about," like, he would ask the question and say, "So and so and so and so," but I felt like Dallas was never once the questions were never specifically posed to Dallas, but
Yes.
they were posed to Heather and I believe Kuda as well. So that actually kinda stood out to me that
Yeah,
I thought, "Oh, well, that's
you're
really kind of
right.
odd."
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and I did go back and watch it a second time, and then I
Oh,
got so caught up in the discussion, then I stopped writing down my notes, and so I'm not 100% sure of that, but
yeah.
I felt it. It just felt that way.
No, I think you're right, because 'cause I'm just flipping through my notes, and where he did answer, it was often in the context of someone else's answer,
Mhm.
or it was like a very short, like, little one comment that he got snuck in kind of thing, almost unexpectedly, like, I think, when they were talking about near the last question, the least satisfying ending,
Yeah.
and he just kinda said about, "Shut up, you're pretty," the ending felt forced. Like, she just kinda threw it in there, and I was like, "Oh," it was just kind, and then he just left it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're right.
So let's just since it's kind of the elephant in the room, let's just at least go to the end of the program where Dallas sort of made his comments that I think everybody walked away feeling just a little brokenhearted for him, and
Yeah.
I feel like kudos to him for, as he said, he's dyslexic, he has to listen to the books, that works better for him as a format, and yet I don't think he had the confidence in his ability at the table to really debate with the others, but damn, talk about a fierce bravery to do it, to take on the challenge, So I just but he did break my heart because I just thought this
Yeah.
poor guy, some of the comments that he made, I think we all just kinda went like, "Oh."
I
I just
know.
felt so bad for him.
I know. I think he had very little confidence in himself to begin with, and maybe he was trying to push himself with a new experience. And yeah, I'm hoping that he steps away from this and realizes what he did,
Mhm,
because it's not a fail, because he chose her book and her book made it to the short list of Canada Reads to day 3.
mhm.
So even if he was one of the more, not necessarily quiet, because he was definitely a presence at the table, but if he was maybe one of the less elegant defenders, he still got her book to day 3, and
Mhm.
he did something that 99% of us watching Canada Reads probably could not do. We've said that, you and I have both
Oh,
said
yeah.
that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, even if somebody were to ask me to take part in a public program like that, not even just like Canada Reads, but to say, "Oh, hey, put yourself out there in front of other people and your opinion is going to be critically important, and you're going to have to read these, and you're going to have to analyze them, and da 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 da, and then compete.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, thank you. There's no way. So that's why I say anybody who agrees to be on Canada Reads, all the defenders, they are braver than I will ever be on my best day.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And
Yeah.
he did mention this, and he's not wrong. He did get a bad drawing for the lottery. Like, those other 4 defenders, they're
Hmm.
kinda stellar. Like, they're a very strong group, all 4
Hmm.
of them. Even when Heather, I know she gets a little, sidetracked, but whatever points she's critically, her criticisms are, like, point on, and she can pick apart stuff really well and explain style and literary, oh my goodness.
Literary craft, right?
Yes, yes, like, it's her thing,
Hmm.
and so, it wasn't an easy position that he was put in as a defender.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there first, and then we can get on with the rest of the program, or with the rest of the podcast. But I just felt like it's kind of the elephant in the room, just because I think everyone got to the end and went, "Oh my gosh, bless his heart."
Yeah,
He just, I hope, like you say, I hope he walks away and really recognizes what he accomplished and doesn't beat himself up, because it's really easy to say, "Oh, I failed at this, I did this, da 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 da," and replay it over and over in your mind. I hope he doesn't do that, and I hope that he
yeah,
understands that 99% of us are in his corner cheering him on.
yep,
So can we kind of look at the questions, and then
yeah,
maybe,
let's
because I thought the questions were really wonderful. And as I was thinking of the answers to how I would answer them,
mhm,
I would have been hard pressed in with answering them, because I thought that's how I think these books
yeah,
are getting to the finish line. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to
yeah,
say?
yeah, yeah,
That would have been tough. Okay.
yeah.
So the first question was, storytelling, which storytelling approach did you not connect with? So any comments about what people
Oh,
said?
let me look through my notes. Well, I wasn't surprised that Myrian chose Bad Cree. Like,
Mhm,
that did not surprise me at all, and, I mean, from day 1, she's been voting for Bad Cree.
mhm,
I don't think Dallas was surprised. Like, she told him, like, she wants him to dig deep and really go into the narrative. I think that's the one book that she really wanted to see
mhm,
defended more minutely. I liked Nahid's conversation about pacing for horror when talking about Bad Cree
mhm.
as well. He also got in a little bit. He talked about all 3 books actually
Yeah.
when he was his turn.
Yeah, I'm just kinda looking at my notes too.
Yeah. And I feel like I for Heather, I don't think Heather actually answered. Did she discussed the future, but I think that was like in response to what Nahid said, but I don't think she actually gave an answer as to what book she did not connect with.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And with, Nahid, one of the things he said was about, I think it was about, yeah, "Shut up, you're pretty," because he was saying, when they made that comment about, "Oh, when you read it more than once, oh,
Yeah.
you can really start to da 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 see the things," or whatever. And that to me, when she had said that the day before, that's what I even said was, "Well, how many of us are gonna go back and reread it more than once?"
Yeah.
So I almost feel like I was surprised somebody didn't jump on that yesterday more quickly, but he did bring it and had
Yeah.
brought it up today. And so I do think, I don't necessarily agree with it for myself, but I do think that makes sense, that that might be the storytelling approach you don't connect with, because you gotta go through it more than once.
Yeah.
So,
What would you choose? Do you know which book
well,
you would
that's
choose?
just it. I'm gonna let you go first if you have an
Oh,
answer, because that's the
dang it,
one
that's
I
why I
thought.
asked you first.
Okay, well,
No,
I will go. No, no, I'll go, because here's what I said, and here's why I'm saying it. So, It was a really hard question for me to answer with the 3 books that were remaining, but I sort of feel like it's the future because the biggest issue and didn't even realize this is how I was feeling until Nahed put it in terms of we don't even know why, and I had written down what he said, and he might have said it in another point, but, like, why like, he said, "Where am I, and how did this happen?" So everything
Mhm.
within the the story, why are the children living in the forest, or why are people are coming in on tours, and so it's not like a nuclear bomb, it's not like a government takeover, like, what is it for the setting that makes this world this way? And that's the part that's what I would say is I think that's why the book didn't resonate with me as much because I couldn't quite somehow make sense of it. So I did struggle with it a little bit, and I think ultimately that's why. I didn't have the big why answered to be able to better understand what am I looking at. And
Yeah,
so without Nahed saying that, I would have been I couldn't put it into words. So that would be my answer. How about
yeah.
you?
Mine would be "Shut Up, You're Pretty,"
Mhm.
because I think if they had just been short stories, like a collection of short stories, I would have been fine, but where they were interconnected and with the one character pulled throughout, those gaps in between the stories, I want it filled.
Mhm.
Like, I don't necessarily need a linear story. I'm okay with, like, jumping around and stuff like that, but I like to have gaps filled in, I think. Like, it still bugs me that I'm like, "What happened to Jolie?" Like her friend was just gone, and I wanted
Yeah.
that, and her brother, and, like, there were just and I can't remember other details because 'cause it's been a while since I read the book. I feel like there was something about her father that I wanted answered to. So, that part of it, there were just too many things that were missing from the story for me.
Okay, and I realize now that my answer more goes to other questions that were asked. So I will say this, even like the storytelling approach, I'm trying to think with the future. Yeah, I think I'll just stop there. I'll just stop there because that's just it. Because even like storytelling approach, I don't even know that I had an issue with any of the 3 remaining ones from a storytelling
Mhm,
approach. Yeah.
mhm.
So I think my what I just said was more based on
The overall book?
the
Overall?
setting the
Yeah.
setting. I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
was it. Okay. More about the setting because I did yeah, okay. So anyway, all right. So the second question then was which book was the least effective in transporting you to a different place? Which is interesting because that's actually not really necessarily a setting
Yeah,
question. They didn't but they approached it as setting. So we
yeah.
might just cuz to me that's a different question.
Yeah, you're correct because they all kinda jumped onto "Shut Up, You're Pretty," except
Mhm.
Dallas, I think he put the future, but they all kinda jumped onto "Shut Up, You're Pretty" as having the least effective setting. You're right, they went with setting, but as soon as you read out that question,
Mhm.
and I looked at Nahid's answer here on my paper, I'm like, "Well, I was transported to another life when I read "Shut Up, You're Pretty."
Mhm.
So, yeah, you're correct. They answered the question
Setting, right.
setting. They answered with setting, not transporting.
Okay, so let's answer the question, might just as well. Of the 3 remaining ones, which book was the least effective in transporting you to a different place?
Oh, I'm going to be a big weenie and
Go ahead.
say neither because I think all 3 of these final books transported me like the future did. Like I just said, Shut Up, You're Pretty did because I was in Lowly's life, and that's why I was, like, so damn uncomfortable reading that book is because I was there with her, and I did not like it. And then even Bad Cree, like, transported me into Mackenzie's dream world. But maybe viscerally, maybe I would have to go with Bad Cree. Actually, now that I'm putting it out there, it would have to be Bad Cree. Yeah.
That's what I would have said is Bad Cree because I have a visual thing in my head of what the future sorta looked like, and also, obviously, with, Shut Up, You're Pretty. With Bad Cree, I hate to say this, but after I read it, which I did read it fairly early on, I really can't remember. I mean, honestly, I really struggled with remembering anything about Bad Cree. I mean, I remember the highlights of the story,
Yeah.
but it didn't make an impact on me. So I would say definitely it was the least e if it was the least effective of transporting me because I can't even remember.
Yeah.
I just don't remember. So, anyway, yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. So the 3rd question then was which
Oh,
characters
sorry,
Oh,
can
go
I,
ahead.
before we move on,
Mhm.
so Myrian, at the end of this discussion, I can't remember what was said. They all went through, they had their say mostly about "Shut Up, You're Pretty." Dallas said he said the future,
Oh, yeah.
and then Myrian and then time ended. And then Myrian said something, and this I think is when we found out that she's from Detroit, right?
Mhm.
Did you know that? I did not know that. And then she said something like, "I really wanted to say something," because Dallas said something about had chosen the future. As someone from Detroit, I am dying to know what she had wanted to say about the setting of the future.
Yeah, and I will say I looked it up because I said, "She's from Detroit," and so I looked it up, and the only profile I could find said that I think she and her family came from Africa. I'm not sure what country she's from, but they came from Africa, and then they settled in Michigan for a number of years, and then they moved to Canada. So
Okay.
it didn't even say Detroit, it just said Michigan, which makes me kind of wonder because often when somebody's from Southeast Michigan, they just call it Detroit because it's
Hmm.
the biggest city and stuff, but they could be
Yeah.
from one of the suburbs or something. So who knows? I don't know, but yeah, I don't know because that
Mhm.
was a surprise, and I don't know what age she was when she left or if she
Yeah.
ever goes back
I
or anything.
really wanted to know, but Ali was like hard, like, "Nope, moving on." I'm like, "Oh, Ali."
Exactly.
Okay, sorry, moving on.
Oh, no, that's okay. So then the 3rd question was, which character stayed with you the most and why? And Myrian and Nahid said Lowly.
Mhm. Although Nahid also switched at the end and said the auntie's from Bad Cree.
Yes, you're right.
And
Yes, yes,
I
yes,
thought that
yeah.
was kind of a cheat because, to be honest, he said lowly first.
Mhm.
So I think he was just
But then he did say the setting is the character. Was that about
hmm,
I wrote that down, but was he saying that about Bad Cree? Or now I can't remember.
no, I can't remember either. Oh, that was no, in the second question, what about the transporting and setting? He said that the book was so much Shut Up, You're Pretty was so much about lowly that the setting doesn't matter, that was almost secondary.
Okay. My notes are bad. I apologize, everybody. Jeez. Yeah, so I think you're right. Today was a weird day because I was
Yeah.
really having trouble following everything and taking notes. I don't know why. It's
Yeah.
just so weird.
Because I wrote down that he'd said the aunties as well, but I'm like, wait a
Yes,
minute. He also talked about lowly. They
lowly.
all kind of did. Because I just wrote down Myrian's answer and Nahid's because everyone else pretty much, well, I think Heather chose her own characters. I loved
Yeah,
how
because
she
you talked
kept,
about Gloria.
yeah, I loved how she just kept bringing up her book because she's like, no one's talking about the future, so I'm going to. And I'm like, kudos. That's what you're there for.
You're right,
Yeah.
because they didn't really talk about the future today. Yeah,
No.
we'll get into that more when we talk about the vote too.
Mhm.
So now for you, which character stayed with you the most and why?
It would have to be lowly.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's an unforgettable character.
she really is.
Okay. So then the last question was which book had the least satisfying ending?
Hmm.
And interestingly, Nahid said, "Shut up, you're pretty,"
Yeah.
but that's not who he voted for.
Nope. That he and at the end, he said he loved the ending of The Future.
Yeah.
It's so odd, like, he really seems to have an issue with "Shut Up, You're Pretty," but he keeps voting for The Future, and it can't be strategic anymore because his book's not there.
Yeah. that's what I was thinking is it was just kinda weird.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like today, if we had to have, like, a Las Vegas bet on who would vote how, based on what they said, I don't feel that's how the vote went, based
Yeah.
on the comments that they made. So that's why I think I was just a little bit having trouble following everything because it just
Yeah.
didn't like, the day didn't quite make sense.
No, it
And that's no shame on anyone but me because I
no.
couldn't figure it
Well,
out, but I'm like,
no, and
"What?"
that's how, like, a converse I know it's supposed to be a debate, but eventually it just whittles down to a conversation, and that's how
Yeah.
conversations happen, right? Just bop, bop, bop all over the place.
Oh, yeah, that would be I'm fully aware of that
Yeah.
personally. Okay, so what about you? What book do you think had the least satisfying ending?
I would go with Shut Up, You're Pretty as well, because I know although I by the end of Shut Up, You're Pretty, I will be honest, I skimmed it by
Mhm,
the end. So I don't know if I gave it a fair chance when it got to the end to actually have an ending.
mhm.
So,
And see it and for me, I listened to Shut Up, You're Pretty up just days before. I finished it
mhm.
days before, and I can't remember so how does Bad Cree end? Because it everybody is happy ever after sort of, right? Kind of?
Kind of. I cannot remember either.
You read it a long time ago,
I
right?
read it, like, I think last summer. Yeah, so it's been a while.
But I feel like it was
There was
all like
resolution.
yeah, it was sort of like kumbaya at the end. Like
Yeah,
the family came together, the women all came together, which don't I'm not belittling that. I'm just saying
yeah,
it just my memory of it is just sort of like and they lived happily ever after because they had come together as
yeah.
women, which I loved.
The main thing I remember is Mackenzie finding her way back to her family,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So, yeah,
Yeah. And they were always there waiting to embrace her and bring her back into the fold. And so it all that's how it ended. So that's kinda how I remember it. And then with the future, the only thing I can remember about the future is that the 2 sisters go their separate ways. Like,
yes.
that's I remember that because that was like, "Whoa."
I know, that was I thought that was a great ending, to be honest, like,
Yeah.
because she one of the sisters stays with the grandmother, right? I believe, and the other one goes back into the woods.
Mhm. Yeah.
Younger, I think she's younger, I don't know, but,
Yeah,
yeah.
the evil one.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of, yeah, anyway.
Well, and sometimes see, I don't think of her as evil, I'm like, because she was just a little girl, and her mother had pushed her to the brink. She
Yes.
was getting ready to I don't know if I give a spoiler.
Well, you know what? Anybody who's listening to us at this
Yeah,
point, they've got to have read the books, and if they haven't, well, we're sorry, but yeah.
yeah, like, her mother was getting ready to sell her, essentially, like, traffic her, the 2 of them. So and they knew it. Unfortunately, it's like they were so exposed to everything that's been going on in their mother's life that they knew what was going to happen, which is even more frightening to think about too, is that you have that anticipation of what your mother is going to do and then what's going to happen to you. So I actually don't fault the little girl. I really
I don't fault her either. Here's
yeah.
where I diverge a little bit,
Okay.
and that's because the older one, who I actually thought the older one was the one that, like, I thought she was the problem
Yeah, me
child,
too.
and so when you find out it's the younger one, it actually gave me chills because I was just like, "What the like, oh my god, you gotta be kidding," and the older one, I don't remember if this happened, I just remember this was my feeling about it was, it's like, right, the 2 sisters are here, here's the younger one, here's the older one, I'm holding up
Yeah.
my fingers, and then the older one starts going you're like walking away and not looking back. And I thought, okay, the older sister knows something, and that
Yeah.
younger sister, because if you think about it, which this is something they never really, she didn't really explain this, and this is the most for me the most fascinating part of the children's section, that section of the book, which is they age out, right?
Yes.
So where do they go? Where do they live? How do they live? And do the younger ones like, how long before they start it starts breaking down. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, I thought there was a whole story that would have been fascinating,
yeah.
which I also understand could have been Lord of the Flies, and I'm not suggesting that that's the case because that's a completely different story, but I just there was something about the aging out
Mhm.
that made me
But maybe
go ahead.
the aging out is what stops that community from breaking down, because I can't remember the character's name, but
Mhm.
there was one who was the leader, and she was
Right.
getting close to aging out, right? And she was trying to, like,
Yeah.
almost essentially kinda stop puberty, make her look like she
Mhm.
wasn't aging out and lying a bit, because I think there comes that point, maybe, or that's maybe what's implied, that she was getting power hungry, she didn't wanna
Right.
leave, she was so that's the point when you're, "See you later."
Right, and that's exactly, and that's why yeah, I don't disagree, and that's why the older one, I think, is seeing there's something about that younger one. I don't get me wrong. I think I totally agree because if your mother's about to do this horrible thing, yeah, what do you do? But I'll tell you what, and I can't judge anybody, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't do what she did. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. But that's why there's a little bit of a screw loose there,
Oh, yeah.
perhaps, and a sociopath, right? So
Mhm.
anyway, I just for me, I say evil only because I'm thinking, damn, she was the younger
Yeah,
one and she took care of business,
I
you
know.
know? Anyway, I've gone on too long about it, but
No,
yeah,
no,
I just
I
yeah.
could keep going on. I really enjoyed the book. I thought that was, like, a really fascinating part of the book.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, what about the vote? Now, I want to remind everyone how you and I said the vote would
Yes.
go. Did you go back and look at this? Because it's fascinating
I
to
did
me.
not, but
Okay.
I couldn't remember, and so I was going to ask you.
I couldn't either. So, and I even edited our podcast last night and still couldn't remember. So I went back and replayed it.
I felt so bad. I'm sitting there listening, thinking, I'm like, "What did we predict?" I'm like, "I can't even remember what we predicted."
I couldn't either at all, which is why
Okay,
I have my little grid. I had to have my little grid. So let's remind ourselves of how they voted today, which
okay.
is Bad Cree had Myrian, Kutakwashe, and Heather
Yeah,
voted for Bad Cree.
yeah,
And then the future was Nahid and Dallas.
okay.
Okay. So that's the breakdown. Again, no votes for Shut Up You're Pretty. And it's stunning to me
Yeah,
because I think that's the book that everybody seems to have a lot to say about
yes,
and they're struggling with.
yeah. Made them uncomfortable, they weren't
Yeah.
happy with these parts, and yeah, it's fascinating. I think it goes to show exactly what Kudakwashi is doing this week.
Mhm.
Like, she is defending her book, and she's doing a brilliant job of it.
That's a really good point because yeah, because I was trying to imagine like why wouldn't they try to take her out because if they think she's that strong, which she is,
Mhm.
the fact that nobody has tried to make that case
Yeah,
is kind of interesting. Part of me sort of felt like maybe Myrian, Kutakwashe, and Heather just did not want to see Bad Cree in the final because I think, I mean, with great respect, let's face it, a debate at the end of the week with Bad Cree and either one of those other books, it would be very lopsided.
yeah,
It just would, right?
yeah,
Because that's really when, at least last year, I believe I remember the two remaining defenders really they had a lot of opportunity to make their final pitches.
they did.
And they did, I think, most of the talking, if I remember correctly, because I
Yeah,
kinda liked that. They really let them sort of own that final
yeah,
episode.
and the other 3 just kind of watched and occasionally said something.
Mhm, yeah.
Yeah,
So I sort of feel like those 3 people voted Bad Cree to be out, and
yeah,
then, of course, Nahid and Dallas just stuck with the future, which is how they voted before.
yeah.
Now, this is how you and I voted.
Okay,
We were correct that Nahid and Dallas would vote off the future,
okay.
so we were correct, but we also then said Kutakwashe would vote for the future because I thought she would try to take out her stiffest competition.
Yes. But then watching today's debates, Kutaquashi and Myriam really gave Dallas, they really wanted Dallas to defend his book.
Yes,
And they
I
gave
agree.
him opportunities. They asked very pointed questions to him. And I think that fact that he wasn't able to really answer the questions to their satisfaction
Mhm.
is why they voted today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, and I agree with you 100%, and you and I both so we were wrong on Kutaquache,
Yeah.
and then we said Heather and Myriam would vote off Shut Up You're Pretty because and I do think
So we were wrong.
I what's that?
So we were wrong.
Oh, yeah, we were way wrong. But I think again, I thought Heather would try to vote off Shut Up You're Pretty because again, that's her stiffest competition, right?
Yeah.
Uh, And with Myriam, I just felt I think when we talked about it, it was just like, yes, she said that about Bad Cree, but again, she had issues with Shut Up You're Pretty.
Mhm.
So I don't think, I mean, we were flat ass wrong, but
Yeah.
I don't think that, I think our argument was solid and
Oh,
sound,
yeah, yeah.
you know, whatever.
I mean, we made the predictions before seeing today's debates,
That's true.
you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. And it did flip. So, okay. So tomorrow, what is our prediction for tomorrow?
Uh,
Whoosh.
what do we I don't know. Okay, I think Naheed and Dallas are gonna stick with the future.
Okay, I'm writing this down. Hold on.
Okay.
So I don't have to go back and do it tomorrow. Okay, so they say this again, Naheed, and you think Naheed and Dallas will stick with the future.
Yes, because even though Naheed has had a lot to say about "Shut Up, You're Pretty," he has also said several times that Kutaquashi has made him rethink his approach to that book, right? Like, he has said even the first time that he heard her speak, he was like, "Oh, I think I need to go back and read this book." So I think he's what she has said has really resonated with him and his reading experience with that book. I'm kind of putting myself onto into Naheed's place because I feel the same way.
So you know what that means, don't you? You got 3 people voting off the future.
I know, I know, right? Because I think,
Because think about this. Think about this seriously.
yeah, that's true. Because
Because Kuda Kwashe,
Kutaquashi
of course,
obviously is going to go against the
yeah.
future.
So and then Heather is gonna vote for Shut Up You're Pretty,
Yeah.
right? And so
Oh yeah.
the only right. So the
Yeah.
only other person and so and if the 2 guys stick with the way they've been voting, that means Shut Up Your Pretty wins.
Yeah.
Because it really won't matter where Myriam votes.
No. What do you think? Do you think Naheed's going to? I think Dallas really didn't enjoy the future. I just really think he did not.
I
Like, just
agree.
a couple things that he said, I really don't think he's enjoyed the future, so I don't feel like he can be swayed. What do you think?
Oh, that is such a good question. I have oh, I know.
No.
Because now I'm sitting here I totally agree about okay, so 100% Dallas I believe Dallas and Kuda Kwashe will vote off the future.
Yeah.
Now it comes down to Naheed and Myriam because Myriam voted once for the future. She voted the future first day, and then after that, 2 times for Bad Cree. So Myriam probably, unless somebody has swayed her, which I'm not sure, I don't think Heather's swayed anybody, to be honest. I don't think she has. So actually, I think Myriam will go. I personally think Myriam will go with the future. And the only vote against Shut Up You're Pretty will be Heather. That's my
Mm,
what do you think
yeah.
about my what about are you
Um,
agreeing with that or no?
yeah, I'm trying to
Here's the thing.
Myriam didn't say much against the future, right? No, sorry, you go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I no, when you said that I went, yeah, let me think about that. Hmm.
because she said that Shut Up You're Pretty was the least effective in transporting her,
Mhm.
least effective satisfying ending, or least
Oh.
satisfying ending, and she said at that in that debate, she loves a good ending. It doesn't need to be happy, but she loves an ending of a kind.
I'm sticking with you know why? Because who's the stronger defender?
Coup de
It's
Quashi.
Kutakwache. So I think she will sway the others. So I do think I'm going out on a bold limb here,
Okay.
and I'm gonna say it's gonna be 4 votes against the future and 1 vote against Shut Up, You're Pretty.
Okay. And I'm thinking it'll be 3-2.
Okay, so you say alright.
I think Heather and Myrian will go against Shut Up You're Pretty. Why not? Just to make it more fun. It's
Yeah,
more
make it
fun
more
if they're
fun.
like different.
Okay. Alright, so I'm putting your name on that one so we will remember that you said Heather and Myrian, and then I'm adding I think it's gonna be 4-1. So, I think we're good.
Yep.
We have our predictions. You and I have slightly different, and we'll see how that goes. I think a lot of us really thought Denison Avenue was gonna win, and now we're getting down to the point where the book that more people than not struggled with could
Mhm.
potentially be the winner for Canada
Yeah,
Reads.
I know. I never would have guessed Shut Up You're Pretty at the beginning, like 2 weeks ago, or even at the beginning of the week. No, I never would have picked it, and I think I've even picked it to win myself. I would like to see the future win,
Mhm,
but I think it's gonna be Shut Up You're Pretty. And this is what I wanted from this debate for Shut Up You're Pretty, is that I wanted to hear what she had to say. I wanted her to convince me or to bring something new to
mhm.
this book, and she totally has.
Yeah, she really has been the best I think the strongest defender this
Yeah.
year is Kudakwashe, yeah, for sure. So just a reminder to everyone, I realize many of you may have jobs and are working tomorrow, but tomorrow, Thursday, we will be doing our YouTube live with our friend Jolene, Bookworm Adventure Girl, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, where we will be wrapping up Canada Reads for 2024. But it's been a wonderful competition. So,
Yeah.
kudos again to CBC Books and what a great job they do.
Happy Canada Reads, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our bookish journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing Canada Reads American Style wherever you listen. You can connect with the podcast and Rebecca on Instagram at Canada Reads American Style and with Tara at On a Branch Reads. Until next time, keep reading.